It's me, Pup. How are you doing? So, on Friday, we had the Anime Expo, where it was revealed our very first look at Sonic's 35th anniversary short, Memories and Beyond. And I have to say, every time they announce a new one of these short animations, I get all the more excited. Every one of these has been just as incredible as the last. And Sega collaborate with incredible animation studios for these. Memories and Beyond is once again helmed by Studio Giggex, the animation studio behind Shadow Generations, Dark Beginnings, and Sonic Racing Crossworlds The Animation. As far as Sonic goes, they kind of specialize in that 3D anime style animation. Similar to the animation of, say, Dragon Ball Super, where it's 3D, but it looks 2D. And these Studio Giggex animations have just been looking better and better. I won't lie though, I hope Studio Giggex are not replacing Powerhouse Animation, because I really loved that Sonic was kind of almost leading his own little charge in hand-drawn animation. And those animations are just absolutely immaculate. But as it is, I really appreciate that the Sonic franchise is now producing regular shorts, all of which boasting gorgeous animation that you wouldn't necessarily see if they did a long-form Sonic TV show. I mean, that being said, I don't think what Studio Giggex is doing is necessarily impossible. I think wanting a Sonic TV show that looks like Powerhouse Animation's works might be a tall order, and just unrealistic in today's climate because for some reason we allowed the animation economy to backslide. No doubt AI will only further exacerbate that. But I think with what Studio Giggex are doing with their cel-shaded style, that would actually be feasible for a TV show. At the end of the day, the production workflow will be similar to Sonic Prime because it's 3D animation, just with a cel-shading style which in a lot of cases takes less time and power to render. At least if you're going for simplicity. There was a panel where they announced this short. You had Takashi Iizuka there. Aaron Webber is returning to Sega, which is great news. It's good to hear that they have a good working relationship. And Aaron Webber has always been a fan. He's been someone that's very connected with the fans. So I think this can only be good news. But there were some bizarre kind of revelations and almost kind of self-reports. I mean, not self-reports, but almost kind of reporting Sega shareholders here. As it's mentioned in the panel that Sonic Team had very little budget back in 2016, 10 years ago. The animations for Sonic Mania were done in 4 months with only a tiny team, with an absolutely minuscule budget, and the pre-order trailer for Sonic Mania was animated in 2 weeks. What this tells me is that Sega's developers, the people that work under them at Sonic Team, the animation team for Sonic Mania, these are all incredibly dedicated people. The sheer skill it would take to get these animations out in that time frame, no matter the budget, is absolutely astonishing. But it is a reminder that water is wet and corporate shareholders are massive fuckheads. You hear a lot about crunch culture in the video game industry, so here's my question. I don't know if it's crunch or not, but why is there such a minimal budget? Why were their animators expected to make something like that in 4 months? Why are the deadlines so ridiculous? This is bad. That's really, really bad. Now, it's to the surprise of no one that Sega had barely any faith in Sonic in the late 2010s. But again, as I always say, if you want your IP to be a big deal, you have to invest in said IP. And make no mistake, even with no budget, Sega shareholders would want Sonic to be a big deal. It would only benefit them. But shareholders are not artists. They are short-sighted, they don't have the perspective, they are just the people with the money. This is a surprise to no one. All I'm saying is, by all means appreciate the products, but remember that behind every corporation like this is a dozen idiots that are only going to hold everything back. It's why fan projects often showcase the true potential of these characters, while official projects have some kind of asinine asterisk next to it most of the time. The good news is one day these shareholders will retire, and they will get new shareholders, but hopefully they'll be a little more tuned into, kind of how things work. If you're wondering why DC x Sonic the Hedgehog sucks butts, it is not because Ian Flynn can't write, it's because shareholders. If you're wondering why Sonic still has the same character model he had 20 years ago, it's because the shareholders are worried about synergy. They don't want a mismatch between the Sonic in the games and the Sonic that appears on the merchandise for even 1 second. But there are definitely people at Sonic Team itching to make a new model for Sonic. If you're wondering why the IDW Sonic comics right now are so relentlessly boring, it's because there are shareholders dictating the direction these things go, determining the role that comics play in the greater multimedia Sonic franchise. Nothing too crazy, wouldn't want to mess up the continuity of the games. So this is kind of a video in two halves. I'm celebrating the animators and the talent that Sega works with. I am celebrating the developers that make Sega great. It's just important to acknowledge what they work with, especially when they've been upfront about it. The lesson here is not don't speak out about what you work with. The lesson here is to be better to your animators and your workers and your developers, for they are the only reason why you have any shares to hold. Treat them well, Sega. But I want you to know that nothing has changed from, like, making content years ago when I say shareholders are idiots. That doesn't mean we'll never get good products or anything, because, like, look at what we're getting now. In fact, let's look at what we're getting now, because I am excited about this. So, let's admire the work. Okay. Alright, we got lots and lots of characters this time. That's great news. I'm happy about that. Knuckles is getting a little action here. They're using the electronic speed effect, I see. Not everyone's going to be a fan of that. Good to finally see Amy and Knuckles in action in one of these Studio Giggex shorts as well. Where's Tails? What's he up to? Did we see Tails do something? God, Metal's getting his ass handed to him as per the usual. He is not a threat anymore, man. Okay, well, alright. Okay, there's a lot to process there. Okay, let's go back. Let's go back and watch it again. I have found it funny that, like, Mike Pollock is a controversial actor, and, like, they could literally make a silent film and they would still find a way of getting Mike Pollock in there. Okay, but, like, he looks very good here. Like, I love the way just the animation looks. I feel like the shading on the normals might not be quite as precise as it was in Shadow Generations Dark Beginnings, and I think Sonic Racing Crossworlds, the animation. I don't know, like something about like Knuckles' muzzle here, for example. The shading on that is probably not how you would illustrate it. In Dark Beginnings and Crossworlds the short, they made it so that, you know, this is a procedure they do in, I think, Dragon Ball Super as well, where you basically select the normals and choose how they're going to reflect light and shadow, so that they do it in a way that would mimic 2D shading, but I don't think they've done it here this time. I don't blame them for that. It's a lot of work, that. And, it, you know, it depends on the budget and stuff. But the characters all look good here. I've seen some folks mentioning that, like, they're clearly using kind of more the modern model looks, which is maybe not the most desirable way to go. I will say, the shading goes a long way here. I think part of my issue with the modern models is kind of that the textures of them don't really seem to communicate much. I do like that they're furrier in, like, Frontiers and stuff, but they look quite rubbery. But, like, you know, things like the ear shaping as well. Like, this is where I'm just getting into my pure geekness. But, like, obviously, like, having made Sonic models in Blender myself, I've, you know, paid a lot of attention to kind of the design nuances of the character. Sometimes, like, Sega gets a little sloppy with the shape of the ears on their current models. It's much better here. Like, things like the eye shaping and stuff are still quite consistent with how Sega approach it currently. And I don't think that's something that's going to change. And it's you know, it's not something that I prefer, but I'm willing to work with that. Like, I'm just happy that the ears are a better shape, and the characters overall do look better here than they look in the games. Like, I would actually love it if the games could look like this. This is cel-shaded 3D animation, and, like, you've got games like Hi-Fi Rush and stuff, so they could do this. I don't... Obviously, like, the cel shading won't be as precise. I think what they've used here is Blender's grease pencil, and not traditional cel shading, which uses, like, backface culling and solidify. This is all mumbo-jumbo to you guys, isn't it? I'll try and put some shit on screen to kind of accompany that and make sense of it. But, okay, so, yeah, we got Metal Sonic in action, and for a long time, I've been saying that Metal Sonic is a fraud, and that Metal Sonic kind of sucks, because Metal Sonic is not a credible threat. All that happens is he shows up and he gets his ass handed to him. And here, this is not really much different. I want to slow it down. It's really fast, this. Like, I want to see some of these details. Sonic here looks excellent, and you can see that the eye shaping there was good. Okay, let's look at Amy, because we haven't really seen her properly in Studio Giggex's style, and she looks great. She looks really good here. I've been saying for a while, though, that I do think Amy does need a slight redesign, something to better communicate her athleticism, because they seem to be going down that angle if she's very athletic. But she doesn't really dress athletic, you know? She dresses more like she's trying to go on a date or still trying to really impress Sonic, basically, you know? I've changed Amy's outfit a little bit on my own model, you know, made it a bit more kind of thicker, make it look more like sportswear. But as I say, it's shareholders influencing decisions like those, not Studio Giggex or the people working on these animations. It's good to see Knuckles in action, though. Shadow and Rouge are clearly along for the ride, but what could Metal Sonic be up to that's making Shadow and Rouge want to fight them? That, like, even though, like, Amy's just bopped them here. Like, they seem to have it under control without Shadow and Rouge. Either way, it's just an extremely cool scene. It's just really well animated. I'm noticing Robotnik's up in the back there, and he's using his Sonic 1 Eggmobile, as opposed to that incredibly boring-looking one that he has in the modern titles. I'd still really like to see a new Eggmobile, but this looks really cool anyway. Love the background, love the atmosphere, love the lighting on this. Like, yeah, everything here looks fantastic. And again, I know that not everyone is necessarily all about Sonic having electricity effects or something, but I think there's clearly something going on here, because Metal Sonic doesn't usually have blue electronic energy either. I mean, as it is, like, I think there's still a fine way to represent the speed. And look how clean that transition there was. So you go from Sonic like this, and then it flips straight over to Shadow. Like, that's really cool editing and camera work. I will say, though, I do think this thing is moving maybe a little faster than it should. Like, there's so many cool, like, splash page shots here that you barely get a second's look at because it's all moving so fast. And it's like, there's incredible animation on display here. So I want to see it slowed down. I want to see it at 75% speed, okay? Let's look at it at 75% speed. Already, we hold on Metal Sonic a little longer, and it feels like there's more weight in that movement there. They've probably made it so fast to accentuate Sonic's speed, but he already looks fast in motion here. I feel like 75 may be slower than it needs to be, though. Maybe 85 would be better. But, like, we could just kind of revel in these movements a little more, you know? It looks more like a struggle. And you still get the speed conveyed because of all the motion lines. I just feel like the animation's more readable at this speed, but I might be wrong. Like, if anyone wants to argue, by all means. I'm not saying they should have done this. I'm just saying I find it more readable at this speed. Maybe it's not supposed to be. Maybe, like, when you look at it within the rest of the animation, this is just one moment that is meant to feel more like a fast-paced, meshy skirmish. But either way, like, again, I'm not complaining. Like, I think this looks fantastic, and I'm always eager to get more of these shorts. And by all means, keep Studio Giggex on board. Like, I love what they do here. So yeah, really excited just to see some of these other characters in action in one of these shorts as well. Yeah. So what did you think of the animation preview so far? How do you feel about everything that we learned from the panel? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. And now there's kind of an important topic, but I did want to kind of put it at the very end of the video because it's not really what you're clicking for. Right now, the UK government, my government, are trying to push legislation that will give them control over what you do and don't see on YouTube. Government-approved broadcasters will be given priority on the YouTube algorithm, making independent perspectives harder to find. This impacts everyone. It's not just that us YouTubers could lose ad revenue over this, but if you don't want your homepage to turn into a propaganda machine of only government-approved bullshit, you need to make yourself heard. There is a form where you can give your thoughts on this, but it is absolutely appallingly handled. Not even allowing options to say, no, you disagree with this, only going as far as not sure. This is so obviously an overreach of power, controlled and manipulated in such an Orwellian way. At this point, I'm honestly tempted to run for Prime Minister so that I can legalize kicking Keir Starmer in the shins. You don't want violence? Don't ask for it, big boy. I abhor and condemn violence in all its forms, but you are fucking asking for it, Keir. This also wouldn't just affect YouTube, it would affect all of social media. So in that fucking form, choose whatever answers you can, but in every text box, let them know that you're not willing to accept this. Let them know that what they're doing is immoral. Let them know that we can see through the claims of child safety for this, and see that all they're trying to do is push propaganda. Let them know we won't stand for it, and let them know that you are to be feared. Give them hell. News like this makes me appreciate my patrons that much more. So I'm gonna list all my patrons now. I mean, it's the start of the month. I promised you I'd do that. Dear Denny, Sirius the Skeptic and Mr. SP. Twilord, Kale Bennett, I'm not moving the sun, Stinky. How dare you? KB, Sad Goku, Ad Zinko, I'm not reading your name. I get the feeling YouTube is gonna learn the wrong lessons from it. Biotin, Adam Myers, aka Adam Splitters Entertainment, great channel, go check him out. Council of Geeks, Shenlock Brackus, SSS06, Carl X, Ollie Heap, Ghostly Phantom, Xanderwolf, Neo Metal Pup, Cho Henshin, RT0, Grant Allen, Josh Strider Manalza, Marv Animation, Gideon Wells, Pressplater Jason, Ben Raven, Ian Webster, Joseph Tribble, Mr. Terry Chaos, Ryan Simnett, Chris Dorkson, Stefan P, Rusty Bucks the Cat at the Soleil Studio, Plush Cap, Sonic the Screwdriver, Just a Dreamer, Smacko, Hollow Apple, Renbo, Aquil Jaguar, Rhythm and Temple, Sniggins, That's Sven. But that's not all, because we've got YouTube members too. We've got Sonic Enjoyer, I8V, Crow Defoe, Mixed Media Productions, and D. Henderson. Thank you, folks, so much for all of your generosity. And to everybody else, my channel is the buffet. You're not full. Go get yourself another plate. Goodbye!